For a while now, I've been getting requests to make the Fantastic Four from Marvel Rivals, which would be cool and all if I didn't already make them from the movie, like 4 months ago. But alas, I'll do it now. I decided to space it out and give it a while because this week of this month will have made it 4 months since the last time I'd made the four. But I didn't want this video to be the same way as my last video. Oh no, I wanted to do something a little differently, something a little more challenging. So today I'm going to be making all four characters all at once. Hopefully I don't get bored or take forever, because that would really slow down the pace of work.
For no light shall survive in my empire of eternal night.
Firstly, I cut out the four bodies. If you're wondering why the thing has no head, it's because I didn't really know how I'd start that yet. Sewing the body is very standard. I've shown it plenty of times on the channel, but who knows, maybe this is your first time seeing one of my videos and you don't know. It's a fairly straightforward process. I mean, you get the two pieces that you've cut out for each limb and you sew them together, and then you can stuff those, and you got your body. And then the head, I usually use buttons. You don't have to, you can. You can use like felt or whatever. It's super easy. Like, that's the base of the body. With the body's finished, I can do more character specific details, starting with Mr. Fantastic. Before getting to the head, I give him pecs. These are the same as any other pecs. I sew them to the chest and then stuff them. Now I can move on to the head. I start simple with his eyebrows. I draw the eyebrows on with a marker, then paint over the marker because I don't like how light the color is. After drawing, I start the hair. I do the gray part. This has easily got to be the most amount of gray that I've ever made for a Mr. Fantastic, and I kind of appreciate it. Makes my job easier.
It's a cold, hard world.
I add the brown top of his hair. I'm not too concerned with how it looks because I'll be covering it. I then add the details on top of the hair. I put multiple layers on as to make it look more like the actual game. I don't know hair terminology. For the final sewn detail, I attach his beard. With his face done, I can paint and color it. I start off with the marker by touching up his face a bit. I drew on in a bit with the brown marker, which at first I wasn't confident in, but I think it turned out well in the long run. I also just take this opportunity to sew the head on. When attached, I start painting. I add some blue highlights in his hair and some brown paint around his beard. That's it for the body. Now on to Sue. Before detailing her head, I need to do her boobs and her butt. Now the game is pretty goonery. I'll try to be accurate, but I'm not gonna go crazy on it. These are plush dolls. If you're sexualizing them, you're weird. Once both are attached, I start working on the head. I do her makeup first. This is just some lashes, eyebrows, lipstick, and blush. I use my gold paint to paint her eyebrows on. Now I can move on to the more complicated part. Her hair. It's really important to me that I give her hair the right amount of volume without it being too much. It's very easy to mess up in that regard, especially with felt. I didn't want to overdo it, so I only really went with one layer above. Then I can add multiple little pieces throughout. To finish off the hair, I just color on with a brown marker at some point. Now for Johnny, I wasn't sure if I wanted to give him pecs or not. But given that he has such a tight suit, I figured it would probably look better if I did. For the facial detail, I didn't have the colored marker or paint for his eyebrows, so I used felt instead. For the hair, I started out with a standard base. Now he's got a weird spiked hair that kind of points up, so I wasn't sure how to do that, but I do, obviously. I make this like triangle on the back of his head, and then I just add the details on top, similar to Reed, with his details on the top of his head. I think it turned out fine. Obviously, he's supposed to be on fire, and you're not even supposed to see him like this, but this is ripped straight from the model. So, the thing. If you've seen my video I did on the movie, you'd know how annoying it is to detail this fella. But this one's different, because this one has even more detail. I'm talking added on rock bits, back muscle, arm definitions, leg definitions, the actual rock pattern. This guy's body is most of his detail, which is really annoying for me, who has to do all of that. Especially with how my movie one turned out, I need to do better here. Out of most of the roster in the game, I'd say the Thing is one of the ones that I'm the most excited to make. If I didn't have a weird OCD about the 4 where I needed to make all of them at once or at the same time, then, I would have made him a while ago. I always enjoy making the Thing. He's so different and weird compared to most of the characters I make. And as I've stated several times on the channel, I love making weird characters. The part I'm most concerned about in making this is the head. To me, that is like one of the most important parts and one of the most densely detailed parts of the Thing's body. Luckily for me, I think I can lay that worry to rest. For the rest of the body, I start with the pecs. I made these pop out a bit more to emphasize his bulk. After attaching that, I can make the dreaded abs. Abs are super annoying to make on any character, and I always worry that I'm going to break my needle from it. Luckily this time it isn't enough and my needle survives. From the front, I moved to the back for more muscles. I added 6 pieces. I couldn't tell you what any of these muscles are called because I'm a skinny weakling, but I do know what a calf is, which is also the next muscle I add. Then I move up to his forearms for the muscles there. I also add this added piece above the forearm for extra rocky detail. Then I give him those cuff pieces he has around his wrists. Then, because that's still not enough, I cut out the traps. I started to think to myself at this point, man, this sucks. It's taken way too long to make this guy's body. But then I remembered, wait a minute, his body's like 3/4 of his design. Of course it's gonna take a while to do. Because I'm blasting through it in the video, but it's been like 2 days that I've been working on him. So, I don't feel as bad now. It's kind of annoying though, because I want to work on the other 3. For the final sewn detail, I can add the rock clusters onto his shoulders. Each side is the same. Then I move on to drawing the dreaded rocky texture. I don't show the whole process here because it took me way too long to draw. Luckily, to get deeper into his rocky texture, there's a thong skin that shows you more rock under the shorts. I won't be making any depraved jokes about the Thing's genitals, however, because I am one of the people of the belief that the Thing has no genitals. I believe it is smooth like a Ken doll down there, and I want that to be known. Here's the finished body. I'm personally really proud of how he looks. He turned out better than I had hoped. For the making of the costumes, I think I'll define them by layers. When observing the Fantastic Four's in-game costumes, there is a clear way to define all of their layers. At least, there is for me. The first layer is the base of the costume. This means your whites, your blues, the 2 main colors of the costume. They all have this. Then I'll start doing the second layer, the details. This consists of stuff like their footwear, if they sport any, maybe some armor pieces, some shoulder pads, a belt, anything that may detail them. Then the third and final layer was going to be the paint and markers, but the way that these guys are designed, I kind of have to just paint them as I go. So I'm going to be doing 2x2. So I'll be going Mr. Fantastic and then changing to Invisible Woman. But you guys won't see that in the video, it's just going to be like Fantastic, Invisible Woman, Johnny Thing. It's going to be very straightforward. But to start, I'm going to do Mr. Fantastic. For the bases, I want to say they're among the most annoying character bases that I've had to make. Like the pants, for example. Typically something easy, but now I've got to segment it into 3 pieces because they have gray around the knees. Not to mention that the gray itself has to be layers under the white parts. Then there's also the dip in the crotch, so I have to cut into that piece later too. For the torso, it's a real pain because I have to perfectly cut out a blue and white piece that fits together in a way that isn't too big or too awkward or will make it like bunched up and look bad. Luckily, I am able to because I am simply not built like a normal person. I'm better than you. I'm better than all of you. I'm not ego tripping. You're tripping over my ego. But I don't have a big one. I'm humble, is what I'm saying. And I have a large penis. I've got to say, out of the 4 of them, I think Reed is my favorite costume. I tend to be the kind of guy who likes most plain, regular versions of things, and to me, this is the base of which all of their costumes are created from. The suit just carries a lot of the basic elements that all the other suits carry too. Like the way that the blue goes across the chest and the 4 on the side of the chest. I mean, the only one who doesn't have that is the Thing, but that doesn't really matter. With that, he's pretty much done. That's the base of his suit. Very easy. Now, to preface what I just said, despite all that, while I think Invisible Woman's is like actually the best out of the four, I personally just like Reed's the most. That is to say that my opinion still stands on the movie version, that is that Invisible Woman's costume is the best of the four in the movie, for sure. It's basically the same as Reed's, but with a white collar, and I prefer that to the basic blue. All this to say that I just like Invisible Woman, and I want her to get more love. Jessica Alba was great for the material given, especially in the sequel, but the MCU one just gets to have more like depth and character that isn't as explored in the 2005 and 2007 movies, so, you know, just something I thought I'd throw in for no reason. That really has nothing to do with this video. Kind of, I mean, it's Fantastic Four, whatever. Pretty much just wrapping up the rest of her base is very simple. Almost like Reed, she has fully white sleeves with gloves. The only difference is that she has a bit of gray around her wrists, which like the legs has to be layered under the white pieces. For Human Torch's base, it's a little annoying, mostly because I think this is one of the ones I have to do the most work on. For starters, I do this one a little differently than I normally would by doing the torso first. This is mainly because there's a blue piece that carries into the leg that would be just easier to make if I do the torso first. Then for the pants, I have to detail his legs with more layers as a base, just because there's no way of covering all of his legs without doing that. I do the basic gray under the white, but this gray goes down to his ankles, then I need to wrap a piece of white around that and add a little bit on the front. Then I can make his shoes, which is super easy and simple. For the arms, they're different on both sides. I start with the gloves, which are the same. Then I do his left arm. This is nearly all white with a blue piece under his armpit on the bicep. Then his right arm. This is a half blue, half white cut with an arrow-like shape. Both arms are pretty simple. Then I do the shoulder pads. I have to cut a slit in them as to make sure they fit right. While I make the base look easy and quick here, I am in fact a bum and it took me like 3 days. Now for the Thing's shorts. I was almost just going to do his full shorts and not finish him immediately, but then I realized that that would take away from the point of the video. I wouldn't be making them all at the same time if I finish him now, so I just make the base of the shorts. With that, all the bases of the costume are finished. Which frees me up for the final step, the details. Naturally, I begin with Mr. Fantastic. I start the details at the bottom of his boots. Something about the detail aspect of these guys is that most of the work is pretty much already done, and before painting them, the details really aren't that crazy. The hardest part of the details for me to really figure out was the 4 logos. This is because the 4 needs to overlap itself, which at first I was going to do by cutting it into pieces and sewing it together, but I realized that it would be much easier if I just folded it over itself. So it turns out I was immediately wrong about having to swap back and forth with Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman while making them, because Mr. Fantastic really didn't need any marker or paint detail before all the sewing detail was finished. I pretty much just do like, you know, some detail around the shoulders, and then I can get into some stuff on like the arms. So I do the shoulder pads, I did the biceps, I do the the details that are around his wrists. I forget what those are called. This part isn't in the script. I have to like ad-lib this part because there's silence and I don't want silence in the video. If I'm being so real with you guys. In my opinion, the bulk of the detail lies in the marker and paint, which I think is actually where I did really well on here. Not to glaze myself, but I'm going to glaze myself. This guy looks amazing. I actually think I cooked really hard on him. Probably one of my best Rivals characters that I have made as of yet. When it comes to the detail on Invisible Woman, she's got a little more going on than Mr. Fantastic. Something I can immediately appreciate is that there's not a lot going on in the shoes. I just find it kind of boring to make shoes for characters. I won't lie to you guys, while sitting here editing this video, I feel like one of those YouTube channels that does the Lego building videos and it's supposed to be satisfying with all the clicking noises, so you like rapidly edit that part, so it's pretty much just the clicking noises, and you like watch them assemble it super fast. Which, in my opinion, you know, cool way of doing things. Not sure if it would work here, but it does make the editing process a whole lot smoother. I do also think just watching it come together like this is really cool.
I do mostly just want to do this style of editing for this video specifically because it keeps it more concise. You can always just tell me in the comments if you prefer this or you want me to go back to editing the way that I was editing these before. Something really frustrating that happened with the recording of Invisible Woman is that when I went to time-lapse the painting and marker part of the video, it just didn't save. Like, both times. So now, I just go from undone to done, and without any of the footage to show for it. Which I personally find really frustrating because watching the painting process sped up is one of my favorite parts of making these videos. To be honest, if I was patient enough, I'd make the whole thing a time-lapse, but I also think that's just not as interesting to watch as me, you know, sewing and showing the bits. With her finished, I gotta say, I really like her. Specifically her hair. I think her hair and her face turned out pretty well. For Torch, I was under the impression that since I had already done a lot of the detail on the base already, that it was going to be fairly simple. This was in fact incorrect. Unlike the other members of the four, Human Torch's detail is a bit different. Instead of being generally even, the detail is densely packed on the shoulder and neck area. Of course, he has his fair share of bits on his legs, but the main stuff, like the white lines around his neck and shoulders, are the bulk of the detail, which, luckily for my sanity, they're not all in one piece. Instead, they're broken up into 4 pieces. One piece that drapes over the shoulder, another one that's just a little line on the shoulder, and one that wraps around the front. And lastly, one that connects them all in the back. This detail probably took me around 2 hours to do in total. The thing is, it's just really frustrating to get a cut like that and make sure it properly fits the body. It takes a lot of skill and technique to know what you're doing when cutting it. Thankfully, it does work, even if I don't think it's perfect. When it comes to painting and markers, that part is pretty simple, but there's still a lot of it, so it's important that I don't miss anything. Which, I think I probably did, but I like him anyway. Something I actually did was go back to the face and draw on some detail there. I didn't like how plain it looked, especially compared to the average Rivals faces that I make. I think he actually turned out really well, despite not being on fire. A detail that I still am not sure how to do. I have ideas, but I think I'm just too lazy. Thankfully, the thing's details are super simple, considering most of the job is already done anyway. More of it lies in the markers and paint than the actual sewing of it. Thing being so simple compared to the rest of the team is actually very refreshing, as specifically considering that he is the last one that I have to make. Or at least the last one I decided to make. I think the ease of doing it also kind of feels like a victory lap, considering how long it's actually taken me in real time to make these guys. I was worried when doing the marker part that I would maybe go a bit overboard on just how much shading needed to be done, but I think when he's done, it looks pretty good. I think the only thing that I would change about him, if I could change anything, is his height. And even then, I think the height is fine. I like the height compared to the other 4. It's just he's taller in game. But even then, in like cinematics and stuff, he doesn't really appear that much taller than everyone else. Or at least, I don't think he is. Maybe I'm wrong. Even in game. In game though, he's kind of like hunched over all the time when he's like walking and he's got his fists up in like that boxer stance. But I don't know, if you've seen my Venom, then you know I'm not very good at doing the hunch neck thing. But it's okay, I'm pretty satisfied with him. I like how he turned out. That's it for the Fantastic Four. Again. Twice in 1 year. Kind of funny. Apparently this has been the year of Fantastic Four though. Between their MCU debut, being added in Marvel Rivals, and of course their crowning achievement, Fortnite skins. I gotta say I'm pretty surprised with their turnout rate. It's actually pretty similar to the movie ones, to be honest. I started working on them August 14th and finished them September 2nd, a total of 19 days, or nearly 3 weeks, which while sounding like a fair amount of time, it took me about 2 weeks to make Moon Knight, a month to make Mantis, and 2 weeks to make Psylocke. Characters that I haven't posted yet, but I will when the X-Men are finished. As of recording this, I've finished 6 out of 8 members, and it's rumored that Rogue and Gambit are going to be in the game,
which that'll be announced for Season 5 by the time this video is out, so, and one of them will probably be in the game. It's September. It's September for me right now, I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, here's the 4 with the 4 from the movie. Now, I don't know about you, but I think there is a clear winner between the two. Like, it's not even fair. The Rivals ones just have so much more details and look so much more like the comics. And when I say that, I mean like their human bodies, not their costumes. Their costumes do not look like the comics. To be fair, one's a video game and one's a live action movie. It's not really fair. While I still like my movie 4, I've got to say the Rivals ones are just superior in like every way. Now, I'd like to thank you all for watching this video. It took me a lot of work, so I really appreciate that you've made it this far into the video. Hopefully you found this video entertaining or decided to try to follow it yourself. I wouldn't recommend it. If so, I love to see the way that yours turned out, if you did it. You can send them to me over on Instagram or just at me or tag me in a post you made of it. Anyway, have a good day.
Shades on, I'm bull with the glasses. Bro say cause he's a savage. So many dead ops on me ashes. You can't catch that, I can't pass. Shooter stay strapped, I don't need mine. Bro put belt right to their behind. The way that switch built, I know he dying. 6, 7.
I just got robbed on the highway.
All up, do do doodle do.